Welcome back. Now, every parent has, at some stage, raised their voices at their children, whether in anger, frustration, or even warning.
Yes, but is it always necessary? And would a different approach be more productive? Well, Richard Hogan, Clinical Director of Therapy Institute and columnist for the Irish Examiner, is here with more. Good morning to you, Richard.
Good morning. Good morning, Richard.
You're here to bring calm to the situation because I have to be honest with you, I am absolutely guilty of shouting at my children. Are most parents?
Yeah. I think I could put my hand up at times too.
Yeah.
Right? So we've all done it, and it's a great time of year to talk about this because the stress, even though it's the most wonderful time of the year, the stress around us is pretty...
it's ramped up at this
It's
time
ramped
of year,
up, and you know, so everyone's in a more heightened sense of kind of like alert, and there's a lot more stress in the family. So shouting, the volume might go up. At this
Well,
time
I
of
was
year.
interested with your first point. Has shouting become the new slapping? So no one slaps their children anymore. But
generally, no, it's illegal to slap your child. But parents can feel it. The conversations I have with parents in my clinic is that they feel quite powerless now that the slapping has been removed. What do we do? You know,
what are the repercussions?
Yeah, well, so how do I chastise them or discipline them if slapping's off the table? So then I shout at them. And I try to point out to parents generally who've developed that idea is that, you know, when the volume goes up, communication goes down, right? And it's an important idea that when we shout at our children, the message is not getting heard at all. Actually, what we're doing is we're diminishing ourselves in our position, and we're diminishing our children. You know?
The next question is kind of self-explanatory in terms of, is it bad for children? Of course it is, to have someone stand there bawling at them.
It's very bad for them, especially
it's a negative effect.
In their formative years, you know, when they're going from, like, you know, 0 up, right up into 10, as they move into their teens. If your response to a stressor is to be shouting at them, you know, it diminishes their self-esteem and the sense of self-worth. And then also, when they find their voice in the teen years, they're going to start shouting back. And that's what I see a lot in my clinic.
That's
families.
What you need to be so careful of. But can I just have another honest moment and say to you, let's say you're getting ready for school in the morning.
That's
it can
a trigger,
be one of the most difficult times of the day. And you say, get your coat. Get your coat. Get your coat. And you deliver it in a calm voice several times over, and there's no action happening. And that's when you have that get your coat moment, you know?
I would say that the conversation...
Because the shouting in that situation, I would find more effective.
You might need a little bit of positive reinforcement there.
Okay.
Right? When they do get the coat, really, you know, do something really positive there and you know, feed back to them. That was fantastic. And I didn't have to raise my voice. Really, that's brilliant. Well done.
Okay.
And then maybe give them something on the back of that. So the next time you say, get your coat, they'll be running down to get it.
You see, there'll be a lot of parents sitting and watch there and are going, should we really praise them for getting their coat?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're talking about young children
here. Be an automatic thing. Go and get your coat.
But you're teaching them, you see. I mean, they're not going to learn this. I mean, this isn't just going to be something.
They won't learn if you shout at them.
Yeah, they won't. Well, they certainly won't. They won't learn if you shout at them. That's just a negative response to something. And especially when you shout at them like that, going to bed is another really hot moment in the.
Yes.
You know, we all. And what I find happens is
it's the start and the end of the day, basically,
it's the bookends of the day, right? And what I find is that we're all more stressed at the moment. You know, we're all working hard jobs, and you can't shout at your boss, right? I mean, you can't shout at your colleagues. Really. You can't go, get the pen. You can't scream at them, right? So you come home, and then you're putting them to bed. And from my own situation, I have a 2.5-year-old, and the 2 other girls are in their beds, and then she's asleep, the baby, we're all very calm, it's all nice, and next minute they jump out of their bed and they wake her up, and it can be very stressful. But if your response is to scream, let's say, there, or to roar, you know, all you're doing there is, you know, really impacting those kids' sense-worth and all that kind of stuff.
In terms of getting on top of it then, in terms of tips, the first one you say is that we should know our triggers. And I'd imagine that, as you say, those moments are triggers. It's the getting the 3 or 4 or 5 of them into the car in the morning.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's trying to get them all around the dinner table for dinner. It's trying to get the homework done. It's trying to get them to bed. They're the triggers.
They're the hot spots, we'd say, over the course of a day. They're the moments. And I would say, if you're trying to ameliorate something in there that's, you know, like that example I said of my daughter's jumping up, I talk to them the next day and say, look, you know, when you're going to bed, when you're in bed now, you're going to have to, you know, you can't be getting up and down because you wake Sophie up, and then we're all trying to put her back to sleep again. It's not fair. And I'd have the conversation with them around it calmly. You know, a message needs to be relayed in a respectful and dignified manner. If you're shouting at your child, you know, it's not respectful, it's not dignified. It's only telling them this is how you respond to stress. You know.
So how do we prepare ourselves, say, for that first episode of the day. That the big
give the kids a warning.
Anna's example is a very good and honest example. Right? You're saying, can you get the coat?
Yeah.
Can you get the coat? Just get the coat, right?
Oh, sure, I've had 3 kids in the car, and you go to get the fourth, and you stand the door with the school bag on with no shoes on.
Yeah.
You know, where are your shoes?
I know.
Do you know what I mean?
And I would say, you know...
But how do we prep ourselves?
That's a very good question. How do we prep ourselves?
Is it a case of trying to give ourselves more time, which of course we'd love to do, but we're all knackered.
First thing I'd say if Anna's telling us a story from her own life, let's say, I'd say, how do you feel afterwards when you put them all in the car, you all go off to school, you're driving off on your own, how do you feel then? Are you feeling good about the fact that you screamed at the child? You're riddled with guilt.
And you've started their day like that.
You're driving off on your day, starting your day, coming to work, and all the way through the day you're thinking, oh God, I shouldn't have shouted. My own daughter say, Hannah, I shouldn't have shouted at her. I feel terrible about that. And your whole day is just like, a punishment to that. I would say the first prep is to keep that in mind, because we all shout at our kids from now on. And it's not, if they go near the fire or they go pick up a knife, you're going to let it roar out, right? So that's different than communicating through just like, shouting and roaring all the time. So when we do that, we have to think to ourselves, how do I feel about that? And then how did my child experience that event? And have they learned anything from that? It's like when you slap a child, let's say they mightn't do the behaviour again, but have they learned why not to do the behaviour?
Yeah, you see, and that is shouting at the kids. I think we explain it as parents as it's a consequence of you not listening to what I'm asking you to do. I'm only shouting because I've had to ask you 5 times.
You know what it's a real consequence of, and this is going to be terrible, our competency is being pushed.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Okay.
So, as parents.
As parents.
I'm
going
to jump off the running order here just to ask you another personal question. I have 2 tick charts, is what we call them in the house for the 2 slightly older boys. It's not going to work on the toddler, but and they get great satisfaction from getting a tick. And it could be the simplest things, like, will you take that upstairs for me? Are you down with that? Is that a cool thing to do?
What age are you kind of talking?
6 and 8.
If they're 22 now, I'd be a bit worried.
36 and 28, He's very good. He dresses himself nearly every morning.
But, you'd be surprised.
Lisa has a tick chart for Simon in the kitchen.
But I would say the tick chart, I mean, if every child is different, I mean, if they respond to that, definitely, that's something like... So some kids love that organisation. They can see the progress of their week. And they love that kind of stuff. Some kids then don't respond to that at all. They feel like, it's too regimented and they're trying to work for it. So it depends if the children respond to it positively.
And that's so interesting, Richard, as well, because we're learning more about how our kids learn in school.
Exactly.
Some kids learn better as a group, one-on-one, reward-based. That has to come into our parenting then as well,
absolutely. I know my oldest daughter would love that, and I know my middle daughter would hate that. So it's all about the different approaches.
So you do what's working, and if it's working, it's an okay thing to do.
For sure.
Exactly. Give kids a warning is our next tip.
Yeah, I would. What I'd often say to my own children is like, I let them know that this you're really pushing it here now, and I'd explain to them like, I've asked you now 3 times. Yeah,
but do you do the Incredible Hulk thing? You don't want me to see me when I'm angry. Do you do that one?
I would say to them, you're pushing it. They're going to lose something now if they keep going. I'm going to take away a treat tomorrow.
So there's more of a punishment.
Yeah, there's a little bit of negative reinforcement in there. If you keep going the way you're going, this is what's going to happen, and it won't be me doing it. You'll be doing it because of your behaviour. So you're reminding them that you're trying to remove the behaviour from them. You're saying, your behaviour is going to cause you not to get this treat tomorrow. You're not going to get that magazine.
It's because of what you're doing.
It's because of the behaviour,
Yeah. Taking time out as well is so important, isn't it? Just sometimes to walk away and just breathe.
My wife would come into me sometimes if I'm, if she can hear my voice, if I'm beginning to get, a little bit more demonstrative in my approach. She'd come in, it's almost like a tip, right? She'd take over. And conversely, I'd hear, when we were all tired, I'd hear her getting a little bit tired, whatever. I'd come in and kind of say, okay, and we'd tag team. We'd tag team, we'd swap around here.
Yeah, there are loads more.
Because the reality is, parenting isn't the game of perfect. We're all,
it's not.
Everybody is,
we're just doing our best.
Doing our best. It's challenging, it's demanding. But what we don't want to do is develop a real negative, understanding of how their behaviour has been perceived by us by screaming at them. And then when we do that, then it goes to expletives in the teenager years, and then it goes to slamming doors, and it escalates and escalates and escalates. And then you've got a family in chaos.
The trick is, to date, nobody's got it right yet, but we're trying.
We're getting there.
Delighted you're guilty of it too, though. It makes me feel a little bit better.
Thanks for coming in, Richard.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you very much.